No, no, see this moving. Okay, we're back on after a break with Steve Saul. Steve, we're just talking about after the first report of the fire at the Trade Center, was if you remember hearing any discussion that it might have been something other than a large commercial jet that hit the First World Trade Center?
I just heard some of the controllers talking about it, assuming that it might have been a small aircraft, but the pilots at that point, they didn't, they were saying there's no way it was a small, the fire was too large. And at that point, if I remember correctly, at that point I told them that it was a commercial airplane and we don't know exactly who it was. If I remember correctly, that they were told that the controllers in that 15, maybe
between the first and second, we told them the span time frame between the first and second crash. Okay, what about after the second crash, after 9:03? Between then and when you were relieved of duty, roughly around 9:15 or so?
Well, everybody knew what was happening. I mean, people come around the corner and say, we just saw, another airplane hit the second tower.
And the second one, as we now know, was captured on many news media.
Right. They were saying, and then people are going, seeing the replay over and over, the guy coming around the corner and whacking here.
And that obviously is the United that was...
United 175. We didn't know it was United. There was some talk that possibly Newark Towers saw it, and they thought it was Continental Airlines because the paint jobs were similar. I think there's some, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, this is this rumor that I try not to follow anything because you see it gets me upset. Afterwards.
After the fact.
Yeah, I don't get and read anything. I get involved in.
How about were there any rumors that persisted on the floor anywhere at the TRACON after the second impact, that debate or discussion that it still might have been first impact caused by something other than a commercial jet, but by a smaller aircraft?
No. At that point, we knew the call sign. We knew right off the bat that was United 11.
You mean American 11?
American 11. The second guy, we had no idea what company it was. I mean, like I said, I think there was some talk that Newark Towers saw him, and since it's a white with a gray belly, that similar paint job as Continental, that they were thinking. And Continental, they work all the time, so it's at Newark because it's a big hub for them. They were kind of assuming it was it.
Before we were off, you and I were talking about who had relieved you, and just to put it back on the record, you say Bill Allen relieved you. And then about 45 minutes later, you came back on. And
I'm guessing. I'm not sure exactly when I came back.
And we were just talking about below 1,000 feet, aircraft can fly the Hudson River. And totally unrelated to our conversation here, but we've heard elsewhere in a different context that that's referred to as, quote, the Hudson River Tour, unquote. Does that terminology ring a bell?
Well, it's a corridor through right down the Hudson River where the aircraft can go. As long as they stay below 1,000 feet, they can stay below the Class Bravo airspace, totally legal.
And it can be a DFR.
DFR, common practice, done today, done every day. There's corridors through all over. There used to be, I'm not sure if there still is, right through Los Angeles, so the airplanes can go through without having to go talk to the controllers.
But that specific corridor, the Hudson River, north to south or south to north, you don't recall, or do you recall the terminology Hudson River Tour, quote, unquote, being used?
Well, sometimes the pilots will request to go up. They want to go up the river. They call up the river, want a tour, and we've accommodated them. I've done it 100 times myself. I mean, I've gone up and down the river, and I've flown in that LaGuardia and Kennedy numerous, 100 times, hundreds of, and I've seen it, but it's a common thing.
Okay. John, that took us a little bit off, and while you're looking there, specifically, did you ever hear anybody refer to a helicopter out of Poughkeepsie or a Sikorsky helicopter that might have hit the first tower?
No.
Do you recall any discussion about an ELT, an emergency locator transmission, shortly before the first impact? And none of that information got to you. Right?
Do you know who a gentleman by the name of Marcus Arroyo is?
Marcus Arroyo.
And we believe he was in Eastern Region Security.
The name is familiar. I've seen the name, okay. I don't know who he is, but I think he may have been in the...
Do you remember having you or anyone else, you're having conversations with him on 9/11 as to what was occurring?
I did not know it.
You did? Okay.
Did you, at your position, talk to anybody in either Washington Center or Herndon Air Traffic Control Center or FAA headquarters?
Did I? No.
Did you?
No.
Do you recall anybody from the TMU area or the watch desk area?
I wasn't up there. I couldn't hear. I mean, I went back to my main concern is to keep order here, you know.
So, and other than just going up briefly to talk to Reagan or Birch or Juris, you spent the majority of your time down, focused this direction.
Yeah, basically I had 8 people working, and I had to get them, and it was busy. That was a busy time in the morning, and I don't need any more problems than we already had.
So you were focused where you should be, which is down this one.
Right, exactly. I'm not worried about, you know, this is my main concern. Is like I said, it was very busy. There was a handoff person on each one of those positions. On the west position, the west control was a little upset, and so you had to watch and make sure that they were still going to do their jobs and not do more damage.
Okay. And I have one other, John's still looking here. I got one other brief. I'm going to take you a little out of context here. You mentioned that you were aware of the Lufthansa hijacking. What do you recall about that hijacking?
Let's see. Lufthansa hijacking. I was here that day. We knew. I guess we knew from the day shift he was coming in. I was working the night shift, and we knew like he was coming about 3 hours in advance. And we worked it out. I had a couple of controllers briefed that were just going to work that aircraft. They knew about it. I had them ready. It's coming in from overseas, being handed off to us from Boston Center. And we were supposed to get him. And somehow it got screwed up. He wound up on Farmingdale Towers frequency instead of our frequency on the Liberty East scope, which was going to work him. And I had a radar control and a handoff, you know, and they were that was they knew at least an hour ahead of what they were going to do, and they were briefed what to do with the airplane to bring him inbound. If I remember correctly, he was being shadowed by a couple of fighters, and the guy showed up on Farmingdale Towers frequency, and the pilot was very upset. And then they switched him to the Kennedy controls, we would get him, and then we'd give him to the Kennedy controls. Farmingdale gave him to him, and they worked him in the rest of the way. So in essence, we never worked him.
Where's Farmingdale? Is that a sector?
No, the Kennedy sector works Farmingdale Airport. It would be this position right here, 2K Rover.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. We never really talked to him in my area. I knew the pilot was. I heard he was very angry. You know, say what's going on? You know, I think Farmingdale maybe gave him the runaround. Maybe they know what was going on.
No, you were just to conclude on that.
Maybe
they got the point. New York TRACON was well aware of that situation and was well.
I knew before I got here.
And you were prepared to take him in Liberty area, but he showed up for some reason. He showed up in
not even in his building. Talking to the control tower. Somebody helped him out. He got the wrong frequency, and if I remember correctly, you know, this was a long time ago, and he landed without incident, and the guy gave up immediately, and that was pretty much it.
Okay.
That's all I remember.
I apologize to Miles asked this while I was looking at the notes, but did you think anyone from the Eastern Regional Operations Center on 9/11?
Negative. Nobody.
Did anybody call? Okay, so no one called there asking you for information?
No, no, nobody called here. We would not, if they did, we're not going to give them any information. If anything, we're just going to refer anyone to the,
you go up your line of command?
Well, added a bit of public affairs in the region.
Okay.
No, we're not even going to. Nobody, you know, other than controllers, you know, they called here, you know, people that work here.
But I mean, any of the supervisory personnel at the Regional Operations Center, be it in the security branch or air traffic branch, did anyone in those positions sort of call here asking for information?
Not from me.
Okay, from you. And to your knowledge, did they call? Did they speak to anyone else here for information?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Because our understanding is that they don't have scopes there, so they wouldn't have sort of some of the.
Normally, everything would go through the watch desk, through Bob Birch.
That's just...
Normally, it should go through Bob Birch, and normally he would go to public affairs. I mean, that's what...
Would the same hold true if Washington headquarters, FAA headquarters wanted information? Would they normally call the watch desk to you, if you know?
Well, I don't know what I would give him unless I knew the person, because who would I know who was calling, you know, if I was at the watch desk. You know,
but to your knowledge, is that where the information would generally come from if there was information flowing from the TRACON to Washington headquarters? Would it generally go from the watch desk?
The information would go from the watch desk. It might go to the comm center in the region. or it might go right to the air traffic division manager.
In the region?
Yeah, I don't think any information would leave unless it went through the manager. That's what I think. I wouldn't. You know, no one gets anything unless it's information to solve the problem right now, which.
How about command center? Did you talk about from Herndon that day?
No, I didn't. And that's where they would go through too. We would go through the command center.
Through the watch desk.
The watch desk would go through. I do not talk to the command center ever.
Okay.
Me. I don't ever talk to the command center. I go to the watch desk, and they will. You know, if I did, I would talk to the command center right there.
Right there.
With Bob Birch. You know, saying that, let's say there's something going on, which would be rare. I'm the expertise in the area, rather than me tell him, me tell them, and there's a lot of questions.
You'll be there. You stand by to answer the questions. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
No, I don't either. Recommendations and, let me just, the catch-all question. We've asked you a lot of questions. Is there something we haven't asked you that we should have? Or do you know something that we don't know?
Like I said, it's, you know, I mean, they were asking us, talking about, I don't know if they say if we read the paper, I don't think anyone's hiding anything, you know. I mean. No, and we don't you know, perceive that. Well, we do give everybody the opportunity, you know? Since we don't know what we don't know, we give everybody. I mean, the smartest thing we do is stop the squatches, because allegedly there was another guy having around at Kennedy, you know, who was ready to go.
Tell us about that. We had heard some information about that there was a flight at Kennedy ready to depart. That there were...
You know, we had through the rumor mill that there was somebody ready to depart, and then they taxied back to the gate, and there was some discussion in the back of the aircraft, and they were told to get off, and they wouldn't get off.
You know, did you hear what the final outcome was of that?
Nah, the people in the back disappeared, you know.
Did you hear that there were...
I don't know if it's true or not. You know, I don't know. It was just like hearsay. I don't even know where I heard it, to be honest with you. You know, I have no clue.
Okay.
I wouldn't have been surprised if there were others.
Do you remember what airline that was associated with, the aircraft that was going to take off from Kennedy?
No. My theory is they're after American goes America or United for the United States. That's my theory.
That's an interesting theory. It's the first time I've actually heard that voice.
Because they want those words out throughout the world that American Airlines and United States, you know, you're not going to, you know.
Procedures changed at all? Has much changed on the floor after 9/11?
Well, what happened, things changed rapidly at the time. Every day you came to work, things were different. It was very strange coming to work at first with no airplanes and the military and air fighters overhead, you know. You know, the bottom line is, you know, we're just supposed to comply with the pilot's request if something like this happens, and, you know, it's...
Any recommendations? Things that need to be changed or things that could be done better?
One of the problems with people with this flight or the guys at the United 175 is in the New York area here or Washington, anywhere in the north and the East Coast from Richmond on up to Boston, the airspace is so congested. So when an airplane gets off course, they immediately go through so many people's area. So many different facilities. That's why they couldn't track that guy. Because when he turned around, he was going through, there's established routes out and established routes in. And he just kept cutting across before people realized what the heck was going on. That's my opinion. It's all my opinion.
And is there a solution to that?
You know, well, you can't forget about one airplane, you know, with the controllers, you know, that's what I always question, the controllers. You can't forget about them. Somebody at least should have known, but even if we know, we couldn't do anything. And even if there was a fighter there, who's going to make that decision to blow up an airliner?
Did you ever hear any discussion about that?
Did I?
Yeah. About shoot-down orders or the authority to shoot down that day?
Well, we had it. I never heard any discussion, but we've had when the fighters are overhead and you get a guy just, you know, where he shouldn't be and, you know, going down there and who's going to make the order? That's going to be someone to make that decision is going to have to answer for it.
But you never heard any discussion on any frequency or otherwise?
No, I never heard anything like that. I'm just curious to see who's going to make that decision if it happens. And I mean, if these guys really wanted to do damage, if you think about it, they should have hit the Empire State Building because now you have a disaster here or a disaster here. Not in the same spot.
Not in the same spot.
look back, Not that I'm a terrorist, but I'm a pilot, and I always said, if I was flying for, when I was younger and flying, just 19-passenger turboprops, it was different than a jet, but I always said that, you're not coming to my cockpit unless I know you, because we used to fly in the cockpit. And if I'm a nut, they wanted to show my ID and my paperwork, which can falsify real easily, and that airplane's starting to rotate off the ground, I can just take those fuel levers on those engines and turn them off. And there's nothing you're going to do. Those engines are stopped, or shut down, and we're going in. Or, So I always said that. I mean, you're a flight instructor. I teach people to fly. Bigger, stronger people than me. Person freezes on the controls, what do? You always thought of that. You can right and then throw it or right below the belt. So, I don't think.
Let me ask you a question, and you do have the pilot background, and that is, are you aware that that some airlines allow you to monitor
frequency? American Airlines.
How about United? Do you know whether they, on 9/11, allowed you to monitor frequency?
I don't know, but there's no American ones.
What do you know about that? They did. United did.
But I believe
United, I think, still does, at the pilot's discretion.
Oh, okay.
I've been on. I've been on.
Yeah, they can turn it off.
I've been on United flights where, they'll say that they have it on, and then there's some that
you
they
can
have
go
it
to
off.
channels and listen. Also, American used to show the takeoff and landing on the screen years ago. I don't know if they do that anymore. I don't think so. I haven't seen them either.
I asked. Yeah, I was actually recently on a United flight this past fall. I was able to monitor on Channel 9 the FAA frequency and the conversations with the pilot, and I wouldn't have known but for my involvement in the 9/11 Commission and familiarity with the FAA speak, that it was our plane that they were talking to, telling them what to do.
How about a pilot question for you?
Let me ask, but before you get that, do you know if American, did American on 9/11 and beforehand, did they allow you to monitor at the pilot's discretion the frequencies?
I don't recall. I only know that United did.
And still occasionally does.
It's at the pilot's discretion, only because I've flown United.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that on September 11th, I've spoken to someone who was on a United flight and was listening to the frequency.
On 9/11?
Yeah. I think she said that it was shut off as soon as it became clear that there was something going on. They shut it off to the passengers.
Makes sense.
I think that's what she said.
What about on American? Do you know?
I haven't flown American lately.
Is there any way you'd be able to find that out through the FAA or through your position, whether or not on that day American had?
The CMO might know. Yeah.
If you can.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to speculate. 3 of the 4 hijacked aircraft shut the transponders off. 1 did not. United 175 left the transponder on, but the code changed twice. Were you aware that happened, that there was a code change on 175?
No.
How easy is it to turn a transponder off? That's it. So the fact that 1 of the 4 pilots, if the game plan for all planes was to turn it off, that was a no-brainer. He could have done that, and he had.
In order for these guys to fly these things, first of all, in my opinion, all right, they had flight simulator things, so they had them on their computers, all right, okay, to be able to fly these things. That's where they got a lot. That's my opinion. I don't.
They've done the flight school too, but
they've gone to flight school,
and
they were supposedly 727s, right? And 757 is a much different airplane. It's got a glass cockpit. 727's got old round dials. It's a 1969 car compared to a 1984 or a 2004 car.
What if they had a 747 simulation?
747, some of them have old round dials, and other ones have called glass cockpits. Okay, the glass cockpits, it's a different presentation of all your flight instruments. These guys, they can fly that airplane. If you're moving at that speed, even though those buildings are big, it's hard to hit.
So they knew, the hijack pilots knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing. Other than,
So he should have known that.
He knew that turning a transponder off is harder to track. in my opinion.
But he didn't turn his off. He changed the code.
Screwed up. Maybe he, they're all different in each airplanes. He just somehow he just turned the code. Just thought it would be taught. He could turn it off.
And he did it twice.
Unless he couldn't turn it off in that. What type airplane was he? A 767 was the second guy?
It was 175, same as 11, a 76.
76. Again, different carriers might have it differently too. I don't know much about it. You have to, look at the United 76 and see how it's rigged.
Just stay with me for a minute on that. The turning the transponder off on 11 caused one set of problems for air traffic control. 175, by not turning it off, but by changing the transponder code, what different set of problems does that provide to an air traffic controller?
He's easy. The guy without the transponder is harder to find.
It's harder than the guy
with the transponder.
But with the guy with the transponder code change, and I know this isn't in the root center, but doesn't that put two targets up on the screen where there were one before? You got a coast track on the what was 175 under its old.
Because the track already dropped off a long time ago. There wasn't any track in our airspace. There wouldn't be a track because he's not supposed to come here. He took off of Newark and he turned around.
No,
right?
I'm thinking
on
175 was the second one out of Boston.
The guy who hit. Okay, I see. Okay,
yeah,
the guy
hit
in
South
Pennsylvania.
Tower.
All right, he took off. I see. I don't even follow all this.
I know, and I'm sorry to dredge this back up, but this is a technical point that you can help on, I think.
The guy didn't know how to turn it off. Or maybe it might have been wired that stays on unless the wheels are on the ground, at which point it turns off. It might be wired. The different companies are going to have different ways of doing it. So what happens is they may be automatic that once the landing gear is up, the transponder goes on. When the gear is down, but he would know that. Might be. I don't know anything about a 76. You got to get a 767 pilot.
Yeah, I actually did. I sat in the cockpit of the 76. The 76 transponder is different than the United transponder is slightly different than the American, but not that much different. You can still turn it to
standby.
Yep. Which was the easy thing to do, and apparently 3 of the 4 of them did it. And I was just curious from an air traffic perspective, if he doesn't turn it off but he changes the code, does that cause more problems?
No, because you're going to see him. What happens when he changed the code, you would see it. And I don't know about the center of it. We would see it, that he changed the code,
He became what they call a Mode C intruder. Are you familiar with that terminology?
Mode C intruder, yes, is basically it's like an unknown target. It's like that guy I said before. If I see a guy descending like this and I go squawking VFR, which is the VFR code, and I have an IFR airplane, I'm going to get a conflict alert on this guy.
Okay.
Because he has an altitude of Mode C. I'm going to get it. The conflict alert is going to go off that these airplanes are converted. If he has no transponder,
then it's
it doesn't know the altitude.
No transponder is a worse problem for air traffic controllers than a transponding plane that just changed frequency.
Yes. Okay. Yes. No transponder is much harder to. You have to have a transponder if you fly above 10,000 feet within a large, anywhere around this area, Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, any of the big areas.
Let me ask you another speculative question. Controllers en route controllers have told us that there's no evidence, because American 11 was not transponding and they did not know altitude. There's no evidence that he was ever in New York Center's airspace, that he went straight from Boston's airspace to Tracon's airspace. Is that possible?
Yes, because the airspace over here on that is not owned by New York Center. All right? The airspace over us is owned by Boston Center. There's a line in the chart. So you might even have one here.
And you did give me the short answer, which is the real answer, is that it is possible to do that.
Yeah. He never entered the Liberty Tower airspace. All right. Let's see. There's Kennedy. Right? JFK. Here's LaGuardia. All right? Newark. London. Newark. Right here. Okay, Newark Airport. These lines are the boundaries. See, this side is Boston Center.
Right.
This side is New York Center. Okay? So this airplane came down, from what I can see, or what I was told, came down this way. This is Boston Center over here. See Boston? And New York. This aircraft, he took off of Boston Logan Airport. I don't know where he turned around.
Turned over Albany.
Okay. Turned over here.
And then came down the Hudson River, basically.
Well, he basically came this way when I saw him. He was, first time I saw him, it's right here.
Where's the Hudson?
This is the Hudson River is right here. See this dark area? That's the Hudson River right there.
So he's right on the boundary. If he comes down the river, here's New York and here's Boston.
He came, right. He's coming down like this. And probably what happened was, when he came down here, he was probably already down at 3,000 feet, 4,000 or lower.
Where's the Sparta?
Sparta, the old war is right here. So what happened was, when he came, he took off with Logan this way, and he's climbing out, and he's probably going to go, well, this is a low altitude, so I jet.
Yeah, the high altitude, he's up here at altitude. He's at about 29,000 feet to about here. And he actually, if this is the Hudson River, he actually comes down the river and then comes out a little bit, and then comes in.
When I saw him, he was in here.
In there, okay.
Right around in here. And then, like I said, as he's getting closer to here, to the main bang, he kind of, disappeared.
So even though
and he should have spit out right around here.
Even though CBW made a handoff to ZNY, there's no evidence that he was ever in New York's airspace. He could have conceivably gone from Boston to TRACON.
Well, let's see, where's Albany again? Albany's here. See, they're getting close to the, right here. Here's the handoff. So the handoff probably be taken somewhere around here if he went past Albany. You see the back.
He's still in Boston. He's still in Boston airspace.
Right, Boston goes way up here. So, no, in my opinion, he wouldn't have gone ever in New York Center airspace. His or unless he touched here, which he'd been low, which was our airspace. We own 17,000 feet below here.
Yep.
See, what happened is, I don't know, they asked them, the quality assurance people here, LaGuardia was departing off runway 13. He may have come close to a LaGuardia departure.
He got to 17,000 at 840, and he's at 4111 7348. Do we have lat long? Can we pick off lat long on here?
Is this 11 then?
Yep.
I know American 11.
Yeah, American 11.
When did he, that's when he turned the transponder off at 17,000?
No, that's when he dropped into your altitude. He dropped below 17,000 at that point.
You got that from Department of Defense at that?
Yes, yeah.
See, we never knew they had that until we would find the mode C's, and they would tell, we have a guy with no transponder after
the problem was they couldn't pick him up. See, Boston
and would say, how are they doing this? We can't do that.
No,
and we never knew that until after Post-Code 11. Say, how the hell do they know that guy's at, 3,500 feet?
This is the same data that they gave to the NTSB, so we had this altitude data from both NTSB and the military.
Here's your lat long here. You see the boxes? You guys can take this.
Yeah, we will. Okay, I see it. I pick it up. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is about, like you say, right around here is where I saw maybe a little bit more in here. It was the first time I remember seeing the airplane. Maybe he was up in here somewhere.
Shortly before you lost him.
Right. And he was heading like this. The South controller you talked to owns the airspace over here, way down here by Colts Neck. So he never entered our airspace, Liberty South.
Liberty South never entered.
What he really did was he descended, in my opinion, down through the LaGuardia sector's airspace, then turned into the Kennedy's airspace, and then cut down. When he went past LaGuardia, in my opinion, he had to be down at 2,000 feet. Now, when you're flying an airplane that fast and making those turns, it's not like there's sharp turns here. Here's almost a 90-degree turn. And then turn. It's not that easy to hit that building.
Where is the World Trade Center on this map?
All right, this is the Hudson River, right?
Yeah, here's New York.
All right, so this has got to be Manhattan right here, probably.
That's right in here.
LaGuardia.
This is LaGuardia Airport is here. Newark Airport is here. In my opinion, it's somewhere like right here.
Right in there.
Okay. So for this guy, he went south of LaGuardia. For him to come around like this, and then there was that flight attendant on the telephone, right, who was talking to the supervisor saying they see buildings of water, and then that's it, and then she's done and done.
Okay.
You know how fast? To go from here, this guy's he was moving,
Your estimate
If I was going to do that, I would slow the airplane down. Also, because I was afraid I would hit.
Aaron, sorry, we take this. No, I want you to come. I want the autograph on it.
I was thinking you all the time.
I don't think it does for your recommendation.
I'll be honest with you, I can get myself a king air. You know,
Hold on. I'm not going to hear anything on the recorder. Rattling paper.
You can get me a king air, a 12,000-pound airplane, and I could take it off of a little airport south of here and get there. You're not going to do anything, or you're going to see the explosion. You're going to see the, you know, if that's what you want to do. There's no way you can catch me. There's a little airport out there right there in New Jersey. I could, you know, if I had to, you're not going to stop. I could take off Iceland before I'm there. You're not going to stop me. There's nothing here to stop me. You have to, it's the security issues. You know, you can't walk around the airports. I can't go to Brookhaven Airport and walk on the ramp. They're not going to let me anymore. You look at airplanes, which I like, you know. So, and that's the only way you're going to sit and stop it. Like I said, if they really want to make a mess, if they did two spots in New York City, then it would have been done. Where do you put the resources? You know, who would have thought the towers fell down? Who would think they would have fell down? I said, all right, well, that's it. Well, I thought, well, okay, they hit the building. All right, they'll fix it. That's what I was thinking after the first one. They hit it, they did damage, they'll fix it. You know, they'll fix it. You know, and then the second one. And then people are coming in. The tower just fell down. You know, and they're like, oh, my God, what's going on? You know, it's like we're under attack. That was we're being attacked. And I knew, in my mind, I knew it was terrorism because who else could it be? Right. It couldn't be two pilots. Come on, we don't have two you know.
Two pilots go up the deep end in one day.
You know what I mean?
Within 20 minutes.
Yeah, one maybe, but two is a real stretch.
Did you have an understanding of, in terms of asking for military assistance that day, as to who that would fall to? That
I wouldn't know who would come, but I was thinking, you know, it was Jetson Andrews, you know. There's
about,
nothing right around. I know McGuire doesn't have fighter jets. I know Stewart doesn't have fighter. I know Suffolk doesn't. Robreski right here in Long Island. There's nothing real close. There are no close jets.
How about who here at the FAA TRACON here? Who would be, does that responsibility fall to a particular position at the TMU
The
area?
people would be the person who's ultimately in charge of the building would, I would say, relay to the command center. The command center is going to make the call. That would be what I would say. If I was in charge, sometimes we're in charge. I can be in charge of this building right now. And they're the ones that make the call, you know. Now they have these dens that they talk to.
Domestic Event Network? Let's say pre-9/11, if you were the person in charge of the building, say we were pre-9/11 and now you're in charge of the building and you think that we're under attack and you need military assistance, what would you have done to get to request the assistance?
We don't have any military office here. I would call the command center, or the Senate has a military liaison office.
So you would have called either Herndon Command Center or New York en route center,
right,
and told them.
The centers are really the bosses. Okay. And all the facilities fall underneath them. They have supposedly have the resources. As far as what I see.
The en route centers.
En route centers. They have a military. I don't, you know, here we're not trained exactly who to call.
How about
and
today?
What they would do.
Has that changed today? Like, let's hypothetically you're in charge today and there's a terrorist attack with aircraft. How would you obtain military assistance if you were in charge?
I'd go through the command center.
Herndon Command Center. Mm-hmm. How about the den? Would you go use that domestic event network?
Yeah, we'd give them the information. Yeah.
Is it the case that, say, today, that you could be left in charge at some point in the building? You'd be the highest ranking person in
the midnight shifts. We work as the supervisor. We're in charge, supervisor. Whenever we work a midnight shift.
The area supervisor then becomes
right.
in charge.
The people who, like Bob Birch or the area man, they're not in the building.
Okay.
One of the supervisors is in charge. Normally during the day, it's very rare that one of us is in charge now. It's possible it could happen if they don't show up and there happens to be two supervisors in my area and they need somebody at the desk, then I'm in. But that hasn't happened in years.
Do you feel that on a midnight shift if something were to occur and there were to be an attack with aircraft that you're adequately prepared and trained to know how to seek assistance from the military? Or would you?
I'd go right to that command center. That's all that all through the den.
I'm asking something a little different, not where you would go. Do you feel like you're adequately trained and prepared with what the procedures are and the protocol to obtain a military assistance?
Yeah, I would be fine.
Okay.
I'd be fine. I'm not going to wait. You know, I'm going to err on the side of, hey, if you make a mistake, I'm going to go for it. You know, you can't.
John,
I don't have any other questions. Thanks for your time. It's around
Okay.
3:40.
You've been extremely helpful, and we appreciate
you.
it.
All right.